Welcome to Reseller Recap, where we talk all things reselling across multiple platforms. Join us for real-life discussions on how we crush the elusive work-life balance. Grab a coffee and join us now.
Hi guys, welcome to Reseller Recap with Jen Emily Morgan. Today we have Paul joining us, and he may look familiar to a lot of you. He has been in the space for a long time, giving us all the answers to all of our legal questions and maybe some ones that you haven't ever thought of before. So hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi.
And
Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And we were just asking you, what were we saying? Can you get us out of jail if we... And you were like, no, so maybe he's not your type of
not that type of lawyer.
Yeah, so I don't really practice criminal. I have a real aversion to criminal law. I'm a bit of a softie, like, not to say that, like, you know, you can go and like do some horrible things and I'm like, go get out of jail. It's just, you know, I just don't want to be involved in like a sad world of criminal law. It's sad.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad on the victim side. It's sad on the defendant side. And there's a lot of reasons not to do it. Like, for example, like, let's say you're not very good at your job. Do I really want a bunch of criminals mad at me, like, in my life? Is that how I want to go about my life? No.
Yeah.
And then, you know, on the other side, like, I don't have I don't have that sort of prosecutor's ambition. You know what I mean? Where, like, you know, prosecutors tend to be a little bit overzealous. They tend to, you know, not all of them, but, you know, a lot of them, you know, they will really push to put people away, get their stats up. And I'm like a forgiveness person, right? Like obviously if you do something extremely terrible, there's not a lot of room there, but you know, there's a lot of gray area, a lot of people to put away for drug crimes. I find that absurd, you know, like for, you know, should be treated for addiction, but we don't need to get into politics.
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea. But the story goes. So anyway, long story short, I don't practice criminal law. I used to practice immigration law when I was a kid. Like when I first was out of law school, I tried it. I hated it. I couldn't do it because, again, it was very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So I just went into corporate law because I found it to be so soulless that it was perfect. Like there was no big deal. Like if I screw up and Microsoft owes the government like $20 million, 0 people are going to care, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody cares. Even Microsoft doesn't care because that's like a rounding error to them. So I found my home in like business and corporate law, the Fortune 50 companies for a long, long time. And that's where, but my first criminal case I think my only criminal case was actually related to Amazon sellers.
Yeah, wow.
And it was a client of mine who was accused of price gouging during the pandemic. And the attorney general or in that state was pressing really hard to put this person in and make an example of this person. But we were able to prove that she didn't do anything wrong. That, you know, awesome. So Amazon reported the person to the authorities and said that they were selling things and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, in this state, you have a very strict rule about state of emergency. I'm like, this was February. This was no state of emergency then. In fact, like at that point in time, people were saying it's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, what are you doing? So we were able to, that was sort of a pro bono case I did, but we were able to get her out of that jam. So I was very happy about that, but you know, that's about as far. And then I had another case during COVID as well, where I had to walk one of my clients through an FBI interview. That was fun.
Wow.
He was importing masks and totally legit, nothing wrong with what he was doing, but just the scale at which he was doing it was drawing a lot of attention from the FBI. Sorry, I was trying to be funny there. Sorry.
We're not awake enough yet. Sorry, Paul.
Neither am I.
We all missed that one.
Yeah. So yeah, it was nerve wracking for me too, because like I don't really hang out with the FBI that much, and it was like, I'm like, dude, number one rule when talking to the FBI, just don't lie. Like, don't lie. Don't do what Martha Stewart did. That's how you go to jail. It's not it wasn't the trading that got her in trouble. It was the lying.
Yes.
Lying to the federal agents. That's what gets you in trouble.
Yeah. And that was my real introduction to Paul, was closer to the pandemic. And I was sharing my journey online. So I was getting a lot of, we're going to report you to your attorney general or whoever. I was getting that a lot. And it was scary because I am just like a work from home selling my, some toys, some Legos, not that serious. And then you start hearing from people like, you should go to prison. And so our paths connected probably through Joy and SellerBasics, but I appreciated hearing that you were fighting for small sellers.
We did something really cool on that front because I'm with you. We filed a constitutional law case in 2020 against the government of Kentucky to set an example for the nation. So backstory, I started a nonprofit called the Online Merchants Guild, which was supposed to be like a first of its kind sort of trade union of Amazon sellers. It still exists, just kind of not doing, there's nothing that nobody really wants to support it. So it's kind of just like fizzling out. But we were doing some interesting cases. We were fixing the tax issue because back in the day, before 2019, you had to collect your own sales tax on Amazon, which was legally incorrect. But the states were claiming that was correct because Amazon didn't want to be responsible for it. And Amazon had a lot of political power with their jobs and warehouses and HQ too. So the states were literally like pretending like Amazon didn't owe them billions of dollars in taxes and putting the blame on the sellers. And it's an important story because that's actually how price gouging kind of came about too, because what we were finding is like, wait a minute, price gouging is not a federal concept. It's a state concept, right? Every state has its own price gouging law, right? And the problem with Amazon is like, let's take this out of the pandemic. Let's take price gouging in the context of being a Floridian. I don't know if any of you have ever familiar with Florida life, but we're very used to these things called hurricanes in Florida. And what happens is when there's a hurricane, the state almost always will issue a state of emergency. And what that means is prices have to freeze. Like you cannot raise prices by more than whatever the percent is. Like it's pretty much a freeze on prices, except if your actual costs go up. Like you basically, the idea is, once the hurricane's over, I go take a drive down the street to Walgreens to buy some water, bottled water, because the regular water is broken. It shouldn't cost me $500 for that bottle of water, right? Those laws have a real purpose and they're important. I don't have a problem with price gouging laws. But what can happen to an Amazon seller in that situation, which had happened in the past, so Amazon was aware of this problem, is that let's say you're selling a tool set for on Amazon, you've got your repricer on, and all of a sudden demand for tool sets go up a lot because of Florida, right? Now you're selling that tool set nationally. You're not setting prices state by state. So how as an Amazon seller can we comply with these 50 states worth of different laws, right? So the price of my tool set may be considered high for Florida standards, but perfectly legal to sell in the 49 other states that don't have a hurricane problem, right? And just because somebody from Florida buys it on Amazon, the state of Florida thinks it's okay to pursue the seller, not Amazon. And we're like, hey, we don't have the power to say no Florida, or for Florida, the price has to be here, right? And because of that, it's really not fair for you to hold us accountable for the price gouging. Amazon has it all well within their power. In fact, our argument part was, Amazon actually does control our prices. Amazon says they don't, but in reality, we all know Amazon definitely has the right to hide offers at prices they don't like. So that was a fun case. We won. We won in federal court in 2020, and I think that put a lot of people at ease and allowed people to feel comfortable selling again. We ended up losing the court case at the Court of Appeals like in 2021, but by that point nobody cared anymore because it was all over. So like we were like, could we go to the Supreme Court and win? Probably, but like, who wants to pay for it? It's over. So we didn't bother. And the reason we lost at the appellate court was just bad understanding. It was the judge was, this is the problem with technology businesses. The judges don't, she's a much older judge, Clinton appointee, she's probably like 90 years old. And she's trying to explain the technology that, well, even though Amazon controls the pricing, theoretically, they could have given you that control. Therefore, it's not Amazon's fault. It's your fault. And like, that's a terrible way to describe the most important network, the most important commerce site during a pandemic. Like that's not the way you analyze this. And there had been a lot of case law in support of us. There was a Yale professor who wrote this really great article about how wrong the court was, but there was just no reason to continue to fight anymore because it was over. So that's my rant about price gouging. So we've been down that road with price gouging quite a lot. We did a lot of really good fighting in that space. Those were fun things.
Did you guys have to deal with the Prop 65 cases? Because I know that came kind of after the
that's been around forever, and I deal with those every day.
Oh, still.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
saw
not going
one
anywhere.
recently about California was going after people that were selling the hot Cheeto mac and cheese because I guess it had I think it was like the red dye or something like that. And they were going after, I didn't see Amazon, but I saw Walmart sellers on there and I was like, geez Louise, it's always something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Prop 65 is interesting because I can tell you a lot about it. I mean, we've pretty much written the book on how Amazon sellers should deal with it. Not to brag, but just we deal with this every day. So it's an interesting dichotomy because on the one hand, small businesses aren't supposed to be subject to Prop 65. So the general rule everyone knows in Prop 65 world is if you're less than 10 employees in your business, you're not actually supposed to worry about it. It's not your problem. But here's where the problem is. These Prop 65 lawyers know that, so they file it against Amazon as well. And what ends up happening is, though, even though you're not the one, even though you're exempt, Amazon's not exempt. They have more than 10 employees, more than 9 employees. And so your obligation to sort of indemnify Amazon's a legal term, basically backstop their any fines that or costs they incur kicks in. So Amazon basically forces you to settle the case with the Prop 65 reporter. Now, another thing to know about Prop 65, it's a really corrupt system. It's a really messed up system. It's a bounty hunter system. So what's happening in Prop 65, so you understand, and for those of you who don't know what Prop 65, it's this little yellow triangle, right? It says, this product may cause cancer. And it's very prevalent in California. Almost every product has something in it that's going to cause cancer. If there's plastic, there's probably a phthalate, right? There may be lead if it's a supplement. If the product came from the ground, it probably was some lead somewhere that got in there, right? And you're supposed to put this warning up. Technically, on the physical product, they say, but certainly using Amazon's Prop 65 system, there's a way to set it up on Amazon to where if you control the listing, and this is a big problem for resellers, you can actually turn it on so that when a person enters a California zip code, the Prop 65 warning pops up on Amazon. So if you want to see if something's toxic on Amazon, put in the zip code 90210, and then watch what happens. Scroll down, you'll see a Prop 65 warning will suddenly pop up. Or as you check out, go further on, you'll start to see these Prop 65 warnings around the checkout. But the thing about it is, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Prop 65 is a privately enforced law. So it means any lawyer can just basically step into the shoes of the Attorney General, right, of California and sort of act like they're the Attorney General and enforce this law against any person, right? And so what ends up happening is let's say a lawyer goes after a client of mine for Prop 65. And let's say we settle the case. Let's say we decide, okay, you're being a pain. It's not worth going to court because court's always, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You never want to go to court. So for $12,000, we'll walk away. We'll just, it's a client will move on. You'll move on. That's a good settlement, believe it or not, in a lot of these cases, because again, you can't afford to go to court. There's no justice in our justice system. That's a whole nother story about people who think that courts don't exist for us. They're not for us. They're for big companies and rich people. So what ends up happening is, let's say we settle this Prop 65 case for $12,000, right? I would say, give or take, $500 of that $12,000 will go to the organization. There's usually these fake organizations that are like set up, like the People for Clean America, that are behind these, that work in cahoots with the lawyers. They'll get like $500 of that. Okay. The state of California might get $1,000. Okay. So that's $1,500, $1,000 to the state of California, $500 to the organization that's name is on the complaint. What happens to the remaining $10,500? It's legal fees. The lawyer gets to bill their hourly rates, right? And sometimes these cases, these lawyers, they'll bill, $1,500 an hour and claim they work 12 hours on, you know what I mean? And that's what they do. So it's like the system is designed so that the lawyer brings the case, they file what's called a 60-day notice. And that 60-day notice is really 60 days for the California Attorney General to look at the case and say, hey, I don't think we want to bring this case, or we want to bring this case ourselves, right? Yeah. So it's the 60 days is to give the Attorney General of California an opportunity to what we call intervene in the case, which almost never happens. Once that 60 days is up, they're free to go to court. Usually we settle these cases before they ever go to court. But that's the whole thing. That's the dirty incentive, is that any lawyer on the planet can just file these things all day long and just make 12 grand, 100 grand, 50 grand, just going after these sellers. And what happened to resellers about 3 years ago, was there was this mistake Amazon made, and it cost a lot of sellers a lot of money, because sellers were selling things like, let's say you go to Hobby Lobby and you buy, soldering wire, like lead solder, when you take the little, so that's lead soldering wire. Typically, before Amazon is liable for a Prop 65 case, they have to be on notice that there's a violation. This is one of the benefits that retailers get, that we as the upstream suppliers of Amazon, we don't get that benefit. Amazon as a retailer gets the benefit of notice. So like their liability for Prop 65 doesn't kick in until like 5 or 6 business days after they're notified. That's usually the 60-day notice. But there was this court case, circa 22, called the Lee case, and there were some other related cases that said Amazon could theoretically have notice in other ways. For example, in the case of lead solder, Amazon already knew it contained lead because it was literally in the name of the product.
Yeah.
Right? So there was no defense now. Amazon was in deep trouble. They've been violating this thing for years. So every reseller of lead solder got hit with one of these cases, because what the lawyer did is he went to Amazon and said, give me the data of every product that contains the word lead in the catalog. And then they just went after every seller. And what Amazon said is, we're going to do a mass settlement. You're going to settle individually with each one of these settles, and collectively that'll be credited towards our master settlement. So however many people you can't get a hold of, right? And what Amazon would do is, if you were a lead solder seller, you would get a notice saying, $30,000 of your money is frozen until you settle this case. And usually we would settle the cases. It could be 5 grand, it could be 10 grand, depending on how much you sold. Some cases people were paying, 5, 6 grand to settle these Prop 65 cases, and they never even sold a single unit. They just listed it. Wow. That's how gross this was with Amazon. But you opened a Pandora's box with that question.
Yeah, I guess so. Wow.
Sorry.
No.
We're not saying don't sell ever again. You can still sell on Amazon.
Yeah, it's just you gotta know. It's why you should be a SellerBasics member. You just call up. Sorry, I'm pitching, but like that's the whole reason why we have those types of programs. Like, just call us up and be like, hey, what do I need to know about Prop 65? What's up? Like, if you're on a listing, you may want to check to see if it has a Prop 65 warning active before you sell on it, because if it doesn't, it could be a problem. It depends on what the product is. But that's one way to be protected. What again sucked about these lead solder cases and similar lead cases is that these sellers didn't control the listing. So even if they knew about it, they had no power to change the listing, because they were just resellers.
Right.
Right? So they couldn't go into the Amazon system and say, turn on your Prop 65 warning.
Right.
And that was our next question, is you do a lot for sellers. You have SellerBasics. You have a great team. If you ever go to an event, you'll meet this whole group of, I've only met a bunch of women and I love them.
Yeah.
So tell us about the team. Who do you have on the team? Tell us about SellerBasics, what you do for sellers. That's what I would like to hear about too.
SellerBasics is it's a cool program we created in 2020, right around the pandemic too, like February. We started it literally before the pandemic. We launched it actually at it was called the Empowering Women's Conference. That's Steve Simonson's old group. I don't know if they're still around. His sister Melissa was running it at the time, and they had this Women's Connect in Los Angeles, and we went there and sponsored it and launched SellerBasics. And what it is it's a subscription, and it's like the idea is it's sort of twofold. One, in my experience, what I love about it is we help clients who are small, and we help clients who are huge. Like, we like to just that's the beauty of Amazon. There's some economies of scale that we can even help small companies and make it cost effective, which I love. And what we found in my experience is a lot of the mistakes Amazon sellers and e-commerce companies make, those kind of mistakes where you're paying big fines or you're getting big legal trouble, it's all so preventable. It's so preventable. And it's like the Geico commercial, right? Like, if I had just spoken to you for 15 minutes before you made that really bad decision, you wouldn't be in this really bad situation you're in right now. And so with SellerBasics, we created a system where, hey, guess what? It's like phone a friend. For for your monthly fee, anytime you need to talk to a lawyer, whether it's me or somebody else, depending on what the subject matter is, we always have experts in every area. If you need to talk to someone, you get that phone call. You just make that phone call. You don't have to worry about a bill. You don't have to worry about anything. You just get on the phone with a lawyer and have that phone conversation. It's based on the old legal plans. I don't know if you've ever worked in a corporation, but like when I worked at Microsoft, we had this thing called like Hyatt Legal, where you pay like $12 a month, and you never used it, but like let's say you buy a house, they connect you with a lawyer to help you close on the house, right? Or if you need a whatever speeding ticket lawyer, they give you a speeding ticket lawyer. So it's kind of based on that idea, and then
what's happening in the background? Yeah,
I don't know. You got the police.
There was like a cop flying by.
It's Connecticut, it's scary out here.
Yes.
In this world.
They need SellerBasics stat. Hopefully they have you guys.
All those housewives,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're right. I think there was a TV show about our neighborhood, right? There was it was a Westport housewife or something like that. There's a
now they're doing Rhode Island, but
yeah. So then we added the extra layer of like suspension assistance. So like if your ASIN goes down, if you get an intellectual property claim, if you get your account suspended, whatever it is, we're just going to help you get reinstated. So it's like health insurance, I call it, for your Amazon account, or you pay your $200 or whatever, and if anything happens, we got you. We're gonna work you through this process in the Amazon system that we know very well. We have Joy, obviously, who really knows this stuff. And we even have connections with Amazon if, God forbid, we need to go an extra layer where, and the cool thing about having connections with Amazon is they're interested in what we have to say, because when we bring those cases up to higher people at Amazon, usually they're cases about how Amazon got it wrong. And they actually really do appreciate those cases. They don't like getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Despite popular opinion. They don't like to get it wrong. And they appreciate the work we do. We oftentimes get thanked by Amazon for the stuff we've found out, that they found out through our work, the errors that they've, the glitches that they've discovered because of the stuff we've reported to them, and help them make the system better. So it's a really cool program. And I think more and more sellers, even if you're just starting out, it's like a great way to get the information you need so you don't make the same mistakes as the people before you, right? It's excuse me 1 second. I should type that. I'll close this. So yeah, it's a really great program for people who just want to have help. If you're building an Amazon e-commerce business, it's just really good access to help and support at a really reasonable price, especially considering it's tax deductible. It's really not much of a cost relative to the benefits you get. And just understanding that being down, right, being down and out, right, if your account's down for a day, is it down for a week, is it down for a month, like having a team like ours helping you really reduces that downtime. Because you have a place to go to get help, immediate help, people who understand your business, exactly what the problem is, probably seen your problem before, and ready to go.
Yeah.
Do you offer?
I've had it for years, and I know Joy helped me with a issue when they were trying to say I had a UK account or something at one point, and they auto enrolled all of us. Like I think it was around like 2020. Like they're like, oh, we're expanding you to international markets, and it was like an auto, like unless you figured out how to like unenroll from it, they auto enrolled you, and I was too new to selling to like know better, or it might have been like 2021. And so she was like, oh, it's because they're saying you have multiple accounts. So they made me like go reinstate the UK one, which wasn't actually open. And then she's like, just leave it. Like, just don't. Because I was like, do I cancel that now? She's like, no, because then it'll trigger the system. Just leave it until they say something else. Because what I felt my gut instinct was to do was not the right thing to do. And that's when I was like, I'm so thankful. Like I have you guys that know how Amazon systems work and what flows into what, and what you need to do to just get back into like compliance with them and leave it alone,
Right. And what we were seeing is before, I remember when I heard about you guys, I was floored because my good friend, she got shut down for drop shipping because this is in the time we were using Walmart boxes to ship. And Amazon since then came out with an article that said, hey, don't use competitors' boxes to ship, dummies. But, you know, back in early 2020, all these new people were jumping in, shipping merchant, and you just thought, I need 500 boxes. What do I do? And, you know, those are the things you don't know until you know. Like now it's obvious. But it was like a timeline to get her account back. And she hired a service at $3,000+ to help her get everything submitted. And I remember being like, if I get terminated, if that happens to me, like $3,000 you just need sitting away to pay for help. So when you guys came out, I was like, this is revolutionizing the industry because you will get terminated at some point. You will get deactivated.
Yep.
It just happens to everybody. Sometimes it's like a luck of the draw. It's just your turn to go down.
Yep.
And you deal with it.
I feel like it's when I'm like, this is your badge of honor that you are a real seller.
Now you're a real seller.
Suspended. You are in it. Welcome. Like,
yeah, no, it's like, yeah, it was like, that was the badge of honor. And then the other badge of honor is like, I sold somebody a $500 La Crusette Dutch oven or whatever, and they returned it with like you know, a bread.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Those are like those various rites of passage. Like, welcome to Amazon. Like,
Yes.
you're just gonna have to accept that as your life. In reality, that's gonna happen. There's just bad people out there. Hopefully, less and less so these days. But that was always a thing. But no, it is. You know, account shutdown is almost inevitable with Amazon. It's just so they have no control. I think they're so. It's honestly a little scary how, like, I don't think they have a grip on it. I really don't think they have a grip on their systems. What I see on the China side of things is scary. It really does feel like there's two different seller supports out there. There's the one that China has access to, which is like the bribey one. And there's the one we have access to. And I say that because I see things that they get away with. We do a lot of compliance work for our brand owners. So what we'll do is, like, let's say our client spends a lot of money investing in a product that requires FDA clearance, call it 510K. They'll then come to us and say, hey, there are these 20 sellers overseas who are selling this product. They don't have an FDA certification. We'll remove them from the platform. We will take those cases on. We'll draft up these letters to Amazon. We'll work with the legal team, and we'll remove those products from the platform. It's crazy sometimes how they get back up for the stuff that they're doing. Like, they're doing really bad stuff, like lying about ingredients that could kill somebody, right? Like allergens could be in these products, and they're lying about it.
Wow. Making
ridiculous claims about what their products can do, and they're just getting back up online, lying about having an organic. Like, I caught a company blatantly lying about having a USDA organic product, which is a massive violation. Right? They were back. Amazon told me at first, they're like, well, it's not a, you know. I'm like, well, you have to permanently shut down this ASIN, because what happens is, if you allow them to come back online, they've earned all of these reviews and all of this ranking, all of this goodwill based on a lie.
Yeah.
The policy is that that's a new ASIN because it's a new formulation. Amazon said, well, it's technically not a new formulation because the product was never organic in the first place. They just lied about it. Now, on what planet, if I had somebody come to me off the street and say, I blatantly lied about selling an organic product on Amazon and I want to get reinstated, I don't think we would take the case. I'd just be like,
right.
Yeah.
Start a new ASIN. Like, there's nothing, you're not going to convince Amazon.
Yeah.
Right.
Back up in a second. It's like, it comes a bit like whack-a-mole sometimes.
The organic label is a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah.
How is everybody moving their Amazon store to TikTok? You know, how is this all like muddying the water, if at all? How do you deal with that? Because there's a lot of people just launching their brand straight on TikTok, the live selling, and I feel like the user base is just exploding from all the channels. How does that affect sellers? What are you seeing, if anything?
Oh, we're seeing exactly that. I mean, most of our TikTok connection is tied directly to our Amazon connection. So it's our clients who are expanding onto TikTok.
Okay.
We haven't really tapped into the TikTok direct market, which I'm trying to find out how to do that, but I just don't know who like I don't know who's running the Shopify mafia. Sorry, the TikTok shop mafia right now. That's like direct to TikTok. But I have heard from the few folks I do know who've done direct to TikTok and never done Amazon that there seems to be more opportunity because it's not as mature as Amazon, right? It's still a little bit the Wild West. But it's similar issues, but I hear TikTok's a very different animal and how people deal with it. But right now the big thing is, everyone's trying to figure out how to do influencer marketing. I'm going to a conference in Nashville in a couple weeks. And they're going to have a session called Sellers Meet Influencers. And like literally you'll have the ability to like shoot content right there at the conference and just kind of meet and understand the dynamic of if you have this product and you want to put it in social shopping, this is how you do it. It's interesting to me. I mean, I think TikTok is, it definitely has people are making a lot of money on TikTok, especially with a trendy product. If you're in cosmetics and you have really cool, trendy product, it does great for TikTok.
Do I remember Joy saying don't do the influencer program if you're selling on Amazon, that's a huge like muddy water situation? Is that still the case?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't imagine. So I think I think you're allowed to have your content. You're allowed to have your external content and drive traffic to Amazon or through TikTok. I think at this point Amazon has to concede it, and I think Amazon has a partnership with TikTok now or something too.
I saw that.
Google, if it still applies, but maybe it doesn't, is you're not supposed to sell products you have reviewed.
Yeah, like if you're doing a review program, you have
to be careful with that. I'm sure that's similar though, because you can't have your own listing and then like you're making your own reviews. So
you can't do that. No. But,
so I'm sure that has a similar thing. Okay, what should sellers be aware of this year? Like, what are things that could, if anything, maybe it's all the same as it's always been, but like, what are the tips you'd give sellers for this year?
That's interesting. I mean, to some degree, if you're in the reseller space, it is kind of just more of the same. It's more of the IP complaint versus the receipt / invoice, right? So it's still sourcing is the number one thing resellers are messing up right now. Is sourcing, documentation, supporting your sourcing is key. Stupid things like if you source from the Nike store, Nike really likes to give you those digital receipts. Amazon's having a hard time with those. They're kind of operating under the presumption digital receipts are presumed fake. Just stupid stuff like that. So sourcing is always key. Like, going to wholesalers, like it's not a good idea. If your wholesaler is, I don't know, like the Brooklyn basement wholesale, company, back of the warehouse in Brooklyn Distribution Co., that's probably not a good, reliable wholesaler. If you're getting things at prices that just seem too good to be true, there's probably a reason. And that means you don't want to be selling it on Amazon because the level of forgiveness for a counterfeit or stolen good is close to zero, right? Like it's pretty much zero at this point. It's very hard to bounce back if you've been hit with a confirmed counterfeit.
Yeah.
Or if your sourcing documentation can't support not only the authenticity of your product, but the fact that it was legally acquired and not, potentially stolen, because we can't prove. So I always say, like, if your invoice is traced to a major retailer like Walmart, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, to some degree that's better. Although TJ Maxx has its own problems with coding of their receipts. But like credible stores work better than these middle of the road, nobody's ever heard of wholesalers, because Amazon's pretty confident they're not selling stolen or counterfeit goods. Like they feel pretty confident. Marshalls, Sierra Trading, Walmart, you're not going to be sourcing stolen or counterfeit goods. So that's really important. If you are using a wholesaler, I always like to say I prefer one that's like publicly traded. Like you can say, hey, they're traded on the New York Stock Exchange, because what that tells me, and therefore it tells Amazon, is that they're audited by a big firm and subject to SEC validation. So they're not going to be selling. If they were selling stolen goods, theoretically their public auditor would find that out, and it would be a big problem, which they're not. So it's always like the more you can prove the reputation of your source, the better your source is. So like the more credibility your source has, the better you will be as a reseller. As a brand owner, it's compliance. Everything is about compliance. It's the walls are caving in. If you do not understand the rules of your product, you're in deep trouble. People sell products on Amazon. They sell supplements that make ridiculous claims still. It's hard to come back from that. It's really hard. It's getting harder and harder because Amazon is starting to say more and more that when you make changes, even if you fix the problem later on, that should require a new ASIN because you're changing the nature of your product. Like what I said before, like it was organic. Now it's not. It turns out it's not organic. In most cases, Amazon would say that that's not something you can just remove from the listing and keep selling. That you got to start over again because you obtained all that goodwill prior to you obtained all that goodwill under false pretenses, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So that's that, and then I feel like that's the biggest thing these days. It's just Amazon's just on a compliance tear. They're trying to get serious. They want serious people on the platform because it's just too dangerous for them to kind of keep it. They don't want to be like a Temu. They don't want that.
Yeah. Do you provide protection for other platforms other than Amazon, or is it only Amazon?
Yeah, we have a 90+% reinstatement rate on Walmart. Not that I'm a fan of Walmart. I'll be honest with you. I used to work for Walmart. Ironically, I lived in Arkansas. I worked there, so I understand why they're so backwards to some degree. I don't mean it. Am I allowed to make fun of? Am I allowed to pick up?
He means it. Oh, please.
Yeah.
Oh, please. He means it.
I was going to say you didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I feel like if you live there, you drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And just so you know, we love to make fun of Walmart. They don't talk to me anymore because we made fun of them too much. So let it go. Let it all go.
No, it's just, look, I like the company. I like working there, but there's a culture that's tough to deal with. One of the funniest stories, like Walmart is just infinitely cheap. Like I once had a court case in Massachusetts. I had to go. Like, what was the option? Don't go. Forfeit you're going to get a default judgment against you and lose like $20 million. Or do I go and defend the case, right? And I literally had to argue with like 3 different VPs to get travel budget to travel to Massachusetts because we were on a travel pause. And I'm like, it was just penny wise,
That's so
pound
Walmart,
foolish.
though.
It's so Walmart. And there's this famous story about Sam Walton. It just reminds me, that's all you need to know to understand what you're dealing with in terms of the mental culture is that Sam used to have this thing when he was running Walmart where back in the day you had to pay. So phone calls, I know a lot of us are very young. I used to be young too. And when I was young, we used to pay for phone calls. Like if you were to call next door, it was like considered a local call. But if you were calling another country or calling another state,
you pay for every single call.
You had to pay that long distance. Yeah. So Sam's genius idea, what he used to tell people was, if you're on a long conversation, long distance, call the person, make up an excuse like you got to go, like you got to, something came up, I got to go. Could you call me back in 2 minutes?
To charge them for the phone call.
Yeah, that way they're paying for the phone call.
Oh my God, love it.
It was like one of his, you tell our people, that's what he would tell the people.
That is insane. Okay, that makes me glad that I called this CEO the wrong name now because they deserve that.
But there's a sort of a cultural failure at Walmart as a whole. My wife interviewed at Walmart. She used to work for Amazon. She worked at Amazon Seller Performance, so like the team, right? The team that does the stuff that we hate.
Yeah.
Right? She worked there 2008, 2011, something like that. We moved to Arkansas and she was looking at a job at Walmart to kind of do the same thing because they really hadn't developed their marketplace at all yet. It was 2011, so it was brand new. And she was like, the arrogance of the people she was meeting were like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, we'll figure it out. Or worst case scenario, we'll just buy Amazon. You're not buying Amazon anymore.
Wow.
That tracks.
And it gets worse because what really happens at Walmart, the problem with the marketplace and why it's such a disaster is that it's very siloed at Walmart. So there's the Sam's Club team. They're just Sam's, right? There's the Walmart stores team, right? And then there's online. I don't know if it's still structured like this, but the mentality is still there.
It is.
Walmart stores team, right? The CEO of Walmart stores, which is different than the CEO of Walmart Global, which is Doug McMillan, right? Like he or she's not going to be too thrilled about online because the way they view online, it's like it's cannibalizing store traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they never wanted to invest in online the way Amazon was because they felt like this was going to hurt store traffic. So they never wanted online to be a thing.
Yeah.
Similar experience at Microsoft when I was there. They were so afraid of iPhones and iPads cannibalizing the need for Windows and Office that they didn't want to come to terms with the fact that like Windows wasn't going to be this important thing anymore that people cared about. People were not going to pay $100 every year to upgrade their Windows because nobody cares. It's not needed. And so what ended up happening at Microsoft is they just missed the opportunity to come out with touch. Like when everybody was coming out. So I started at Microsoft the same year the iPhone launched. And I saw the iPhone. I'm like, this is the most revolutionary thing I've ever seen, a touchscreen device. This is crazy. I went to Microsoft, that same, like the orientation, and they're demonstrating like this Pac-Man. Do you remember Pac-Man like tables? Like when you go to like restaurants, you could sit at a coffee table with a Pac-Man inside of your joystick. Yeah. That was the size of Microsoft's touch technology. They were like, we could foresee people having one of these massive giant devices in everyone's home where you can zoom in on the map. Meanwhile, Apple has the iPhone. And you're just like,
wow,
what do you do? But they didn't want to invest in the technology. And then that's how they kind of lose their lead in that space. And so Walmart, same thing. They're not interested in funding and really, they were never interested in blowing up online. And now they're just playing catch up and they're doing a terrible job of playing catch up. And, in my experience, we've done, so a big part of our law practice is mergers and acquisitions. We've done $1 billion in exits for mostly our brand owners, some wholesalers too, but mostly brand owners are selling their businesses. I can tell you with pretty based on the data I've seen, which is a lot, I probably couldn't name a single client who's ever had like 50% Walmart, right? Like the structure is always like 80% Amazon, 10% Shopify, 5% Walmart, and 5% other, right? It's always Walmart's just, if somebody's doing $1 million on Walmart, it probably means they're doing 20 million elsewhere, right? Like it's such a small channel. It just doesn't have it. And so people spend time and energy trying to figure it out, realizing that there's just no market here. Like nobody's on this thing relative to compared to Amazon.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of effort for very little payoff, unfortunately, when you're on Walmart. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who'll be like, oh, I do amazing. I'm not saying there aren't those people out there. I'm just saying they're few and far between relative to Amazon. And that's all you need to know. It's like, if you can only get 10% of the traffic that you capture on Walmart that you capture on Amazon, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing $1 million in gross sales, right, of which maybe as a reseller you're making 15% on that, hopefully, right? On Amazon, and you put the same effort in Walmart, you're going to be looking for like 100,000 in sales, to which you'll make 15,000. But the risk you take, it's not worth it. It's just not a great platform, unfortunately. I know like Walmart can spend all the money. They have more money than they'll ever need in the world, right? They're worth a ton of money. They can spend as much money as they want at the Prosper Show and marketing Walmart Marketplace and act like they actually care about it. I don't believe for a second that Walmart takes it that seriously because look at it.
I love that. I love that because I think once you talked about the culture, once you kind of get close to the culture and they want you to talk about it and bring new sellers in, no matter how they perform, you have to have a smiling face. And they want you to cheer them on. And then if they do have dissent among the ranks, cut off immediately instead of figuring out how to make it better. So we definitely see the same thing. Yeah. And it's aggravating as a Walmart seller because, you spend all day talking to them and saying like, here's how to make it better. And they have the money. You're like, okay.
We're telling you from a seller perspective, like it's just there's a few changes that would make a huge difference to their bottom line in the amount of sellers that would be selling on there and the volume we would be bringing. And I've talked to so many and it just falls on deaf ears every time because they know that like they just don't want to make the changes. So
It's like, what are we doing at
Why?
the Seller Summit if you're not going to listen to what
I
the
know.
sellers are telling you?
Yeah.
Like, why are we having this event every year at this
I
point?
don't need to cheer you on. Like,
Yeah, no, listen, but they won't tell you what I know, which is nothing happens. Like you can to get change at Walmart is like it's like almost like as bad as change of the government, right? Like it's just like it's a dead end, right?
Yeah,
You're not gonna get it. Walmart moves at a very slow speed, whereas Amazon is a culture of 90stech.com where you move fast and break things, and Walmart's high conservatism, right? Everything's conservative. Whatever it's been working so far in the past should continue to work for as long as it can in the future.
Right.
We don't like change. Changes, they overanalyze everything to death, and they don't implement. They're not fast, and
at all.
So I mean, I think they'll be a successful. They're successful. I mean, I can't argue with it. But is their .com platform really something that sellers are going to should spend a lot of time on? Probably not. I've just never seen any seller other than, like I said, the guy who's doing 20 million elsewhere. Maybe it's an extra mil on Walmart. Maybe that guy or girl, like that's good. But for most people,
well, and their solution to everything is, use the Excel sheet. That'll fix all the errors and glitches. Just use the Excel sheet, the upload, the Excel file.
Yeah. Perfect.
And it's Salesforce on the back end. My husband's a software engineer, and he got in there looking at something. I mean, early on when I got on the platform, he goes, "This is Salesforce. They didn't even build this. This is Salesforce."
That's crazy.
Oh, no.
It's I don't know. And then you get suspended on Walmart. You're it's not even.
And you're in the abyss. Nobody to talk to. Nobody to reinstate you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have a good track record of Walmart reinstatements, but then there's some things like you can't even appeal IP claims on Walmart. They just shut you down.
Yes.
Even if it's retired, you can't appeal it.
Yeah. And apparently you can get an IP claim for something you sold like years ago.
Just happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Don't get us started on Walmart. We could go for hours.
This could be a 3-hour conversation.
It's endless. Well, we appreciate your time, Paul. Thank you for being here, and we will post links below. You can go sign up for SellerBasics. Talk to them today if you're dealing with IPs or suspensions. They are who you need to know. Go see them at Prosper. If you'll be there, there's tons of events they're going to be at. Go talk to them. They're the best, honestly, the best. So thank you for listening, sharing this with your friends. Until next time, bye.
Until next time. Thanks so much.